All right.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you to our Down Syndrome Association. Thank you for visiting and viewing our Down Syndrome Association presentation this week on the Texas ABLE program. And Anna from the Texas Comptroller Office is going to be explaining more about the program and how it's really beneficial for those we love with Down syndromes or other disabilities. So I will turn it over to you, Anna.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. Again, my name is Anna Mallett. I work for the Texas Comptrollers Office in Austin, which is a state agency that oversees the Texas ABLE program. And so I am a program specialist for Texas ABLE. So Texas ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. That's what ABLE stands for. And so what I plan on doing this morning, I have quite a bit of information to cover with you. I'm going to go through and talk just a little bit about ABLE, where it came from, what it means, and how, the history of the piece of legislation. I believe I made a presentation to your group in person several years back. So I've had a chance, and some of you may be familiar with ABLE. So I'm going to go through also some of the basics of the program. So it's a savings program. We'll talk about who's eligible, the benefits behind it, how much can you put in, how do you take money out, that kind of thing. And then we'll go into some of the highlights for the Texas ABLE program, how to get started with that. I will leave you with some resources at the end of the presentation, and then we'll circle back to any questions that you may have, but it's all going to be very high level. If you have questions along the way, go ahead and feel free to throw them in the chat box and just put them into the chat box, and I will circle back to them at the end, and we'll cover those there at the end. So lots of information to cover. Now, before I get started, whether I'm talking to folks in person or doing a virtual presentation like this one, I always have to let you know that we have a lot of attorneys in our office, and I have to let you know that I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a tax advisor. So some of the things that we will talk about involve securities and risks and investments. And so I can't give that financial advice. So that's important to know. We do have a program disclosure statement on our website. It has all the rules and regs of Texas ABLE. And so we highly encourage you to read that information, before you would get started with the program. So let's talk a little bit about ABLE. What is it? Again, some of you may have an idea of what it is. So ABLE, the program itself, actually was created after a piece of legislation that was passed on the federal level back in 2014. It's called the Federal Stephen Beck Achieving a Better Life Experience, or the ABLE Act. And so what it did was it essentially created a new savings option for families, for individuals with disabilities, and for families to save money and keep eligibility for benefits, right? Or future eligibility for benefits, such as SSI or Medicaid. The law itself was named after a gentleman, Stephen Beck. He was a disability advocate, but he was also a parent of a child with special needs. And so the story is that he, along with some other parents that had kids with special needs, were sitting around his kitchen table one night, and they were talking about really long-term saving strategies for their children, right? They had young kids, and they were talking about how in the world are we going to be able to save long-term and keep, eligibility for important benefits like SSI or Medicaid, benefits that they may be receiving or may be receiving when they get older at transition time. And so they lobbied to create this piece of legislation. It created that new savings option, saving money in what we call an ABLE account. It's a tax-advantaged account And we'll talk about what that means in just a moment. Using the funds in the account for qualified disability expenses, so that's disability expenses related to that individual's disability, all while keeping that eligibility for benefits, okay? Very, I mean, it was a game changer for the way families could save. As many of you know, in order to qualify for SSI, in many, you cannot have more than $2,000 in resources in that individual's name, or they would lose their eligibility for benefits, right? And when the child is under 18, many times SSA looks at the income of the parent. And so they would look at that resource limit as well of the parent. So in many instances, when that child turns 18, they cannot have, or not in many instances, in fact, they cannot have more than $2,000 in resources. So this was a way for families to put money in these ABLE accounts, which are separate accounts than from a personal checking or a savings. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. That's a lot of information. But one of the other things that the law did was it created a new section in the tax code called the 529A. This is important because some of you may be familiar with the college savings 529 accounts. And so those are tax advantaged accounts for saving for higher education. So essentially these ABLE accounts or 529A accounts are almost sister accounts to the college savings account, except these are saving for disability related expenses instead of higher education. The last thing that the law did was it authorized states to administer the program. This is important. So the only way an individual or a family can enroll in an ABLE program is through a state. So there are 40 plus states that have ABLE programs. Some of them are open to out-of-state residents, and Texas is open to Texas residents only. So the individual with the disability has to be a Texas resident. And I'll talk about those eligibility requirements in just a moment. But essentially just a game changer for the way families can save. We work with all of the other states to help promote ABLE on a national level, just spreading the word and trying to get the message out about the importance and the benefits behind the ABLE programs. So we have a little video for you. It's about a minute long, and I'm going to go ahead and play it for you now. If you can't hear it, please let me know. Just let me know through the chat box, because I don't want to continue to play it if you can't hear it. So let me go ahead and turn it up for you.
As someone who has with Down syndrome, this law was one of the best things that's happened to the disability community in a very long time.
In 2014, Congress passed the ABLE Act to help families with disabilities save for life.
The ABLE Act is a game changer for Americans living with disabilities, but there's a problem.
Only 50,000 Americans are currently using ABLE accounts to save.
And more than 14 million are eligible.
An ABLE account is a savings plan that people with disabilities or their families can use to save for someone with a disability the same way that people can save for someone without a disability.
Ethan has needed extensive dental work, which has cost thousands and thousands of dollars. You can go down the list, and pretty much every part of his life took on an added expense.
ABLE allows people with disabilities to put money away that they can use in the future to cover essential life costs.
Without the risk of losing government disability benefits.
We save for Audrey through an ABLE account the same way that we save for my other daughter with a 529 college plan.
Before ABLE, people with disabilities who depended upon government benefits to cover the high cost of living with a disability couldn't have savings of more than $2,000 without risk of losing their benefits.
Nobody can live off $2,000.
This limitation made it extremely difficult for many people with disabilities to live independently.
Do you want to be in a place where you can live all by yourself and do all the things that you want to do in your dreams?
Yes.
With ABLE, you can save without losing SSI, Medicaid, HUD, and other important benefits.
ABLE allows you to set aside up to $15,000 each year.
If there's one thing you need to know about the ABLE account, it's that your money grows tax-free.
But the difference is that you can use it at any time to pay for any eligible disability-related expense.
My favorite thing about ABLE is that it is flexible and simple. That I just go and sign up on the website and it's done and I'm saving.
Stable,
dependable,
capable,
Enable,
available. We need your help to spread the word on ABLE.
I'm excited to announce a new savings program for Texans with Disabilities administered through my office. It's called the Texas Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE program. With the Texas ABLE program, eligible Texans with disabilities and their families can save money for short and long-term disability-related expenses in a tax-advantaged account. For too long, many Texans with disabilities have been unable to work towards financial independence. Texans with disabilities now have a path towards a better future. Find out more today at texasable.org.
So yeah, the video just kind of sums up some of the next things I'm going to cover with you, but just gives a nice overview of the program. Again, an ABLE account is it's a tax advantage investment account. It's a savings account, but it's also an investment account as well. These are your own private funds that you are putting into the account. So they're intended to supplement any funds that you may be receiving through SSI or Medicaid or other insurance. This is important. The beneficiary or the eligible individual with a disability is the owner of the account. So whether they are 3 years old or whether they are 43 years old, they are always the owner of the ABLE account. That's how the law was set up. And as there are other states that have ABLE programs, you can only have one ABLE account per beneficiary or per eligible individual. That's important to know as well. So the benefits really of having the account, we've covered these through the video: tax-free withdrawals, using them for disability expenses. So this is financial independence for individuals with disabilities who have not been able to work or who plan to work and couldn't put their money aside and still keep that eligibility for benefits. Peace of mind for mom and dad, for family, to have a little nest egg and money aside for that individual, whether they want to use it now or use it in the future. Choice and control. You decide how the money goes in. You decide if you want to take it out and how you're going to use it. Anyone can contribute to the account. So mom, dad, grandpa, really a neighbor, anyone can put money directly into that account. They can be used in conjunction. An ABLE account can be used with other savings tools, such as, a special needs trust. Those are other options as well, and they do work hand in hand together. And then it can be an option for stimulus payments too. I added that just recently, but being able to put those funds into the ABLE account. So based on that federal law, there are some eligibility requirements. So the law says that the individual with a disability, their disability must have occurred before the age of 26. And then in addition to that, they would have to meet one of the following criteria there. So if they are eligible to receive SSI or SSDI, and they meet that age requirement, they can open an account. If they have a condition on the Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances, and the age requirement, they could open up that account. And then that third option is going to be through a self-certification process. So essentially what that is, that's a physician's diagnosis stating that the individual their disability occurred before the age of 26.
Make your lunch.
They meet that definition of the mental or medical determination. So that's important to know as well. Now,
Anna.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, question. Can you make that slide full screen?
Oh, are y'all having a hard time seeing it? You know what? I think did I swap it? Okay, can y'all see it now?
Yes, there we go. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me know. I switched it, I think, during the video. I appreciate that. Otherwise, you guys would be reading my notes, which I don't really even use, but they're there. Anyways, so the eligibility requirements, and you guys, I'm happy to send a slide PDF of this presentation to Kathleen, and she can certainly send it out if you request it, or you can email me and I'll give you my contact information at the end. So who can open the account? So there's two ways to open the account. Number one, the eligible individual with a disability can certainly open it. If they're a Texas resident, they're 18 years of age, they can open it and manage it on their behalf. That's the beautiful thing about the program. Now, the second way is going to be through what we call an authorized legal representative. So that's a parent, a guardian, or some form of other fiduciary, a power of attorney that would open it and manage it on that individual's behalf. Okay, so those are the two ways to open the account. Now, once the account's set up, how much money can go into the account? This is also based on that federal law. You heard on the video, $15,000 a year is the annual contribution limit that can go into an ABLE account. If the individual with the disability has the ABLE account and they are working, so they're working beneficiaries and they are not contributing to an employer-sponsored retirement plan, they changed the law a couple of years ago to where those particular individuals who are working can actually save above the $15,000 a year, up to $27,000. Now, that additional $12,140 would be working wages that they could put into that ABLE account, but really opening the door to allow those individuals to save more. The maximum that you can have in an ABLE account here in Texas is $500,000. So that's the most that you can put, and that's the 529 limit for the state. Now, for families that receive SSI or that plan to receive SSI in the future, the law states that if you're receiving SSI benefits, you can save up to essentially $100,000 in that ABLE account. And then once that account reaches $100,000, any monthly SSI benefits that individual is receiving, those benefits are temporarily suspended until that ABLE account falls back down under the $100,000 a year. Okay, so remember, we're at $15,000 a year is the annual limit, and then once that account reaches $100,000, if they're receiving SSI, that's when those benefits are suspended. Very important to know, even if the account goes over $100,000, the Medicaid benefits or that medical side to it, waiver services, are always going to remain. Okay, that's very, very important. Also, the money that goes into into the ABLE account, even if they're working wages, it still counts as income for SSI determination purposes. So that's important to know as well. So the law says that money goes in and it's to be used for what's called a qualified disability expense. At the end of the day, a qualified disability expense is anything related to that individual's health, independence, or quality of life. That is very, very broad. And so they wrote that definition in the law to make it very broad, because a disability related expense for my child may be much different than what would be for your child. These expenses include basic living expenses. They include day-to-day expenses such as food, clothing, housing expenses. The IRS determines at the end of the day what is a disability expense as far as whether it's qualified or non-qualified. And so they provided categories for us. And so you'll see here, I'll just kind of go through them quickly. Education is certainly one. Housing expense. We see a lot of our families are using our ABLE accounts to pay for rent or housing for their their child. I will tell you really quickly, and I won't digress too much on this housing part, but I will tell you there are some families that receive SSI and actually receive a reduction in their SSI monthly benefits because of what's called a 1/3 reduction, because of that child may be living at home. And so we do see some of our families are paying for that housing expense directly out of that ABLE account. And in some cases, that 1/3 reduction actually goes away, because if you're paying that ABLE account, the housing expense out of the ABLE account, it actually looks like the individual with the disability is paying for their own way because they are the owner of the account. I know that's a lot of information. We'll go back to that at the end, but housing is a big one. Housing, you cannot pay for housing out of special needs trusts in many cases. So people are using it a lot to pay for the housing, using ABLE accounts to pay for housing. Transportation, this could be modifications to a vehicle. It could be just day-to-day, an Uber fare, a bus fare, employment training support, assistive technology, personal support services, attendance services. This could be a screen reader for an individual who is visually impaired, that kind of thing. Health, prevention, wellness could be a specialized therapy, a medical therapy, a dental bill. Those are just examples. Financial management, legal fees, oversight and monitoring. This could be fees to set up a special needs trust or anything related to that individual's disability. Also, funeral and burial are considered a disability expense as well. So that's important to keep in mind as well. But again, if you have questions on this, we'll circle back to the disability expenses at the end. Now, with all ABLE accounts, whether you have one here or in another state, there is a Medicaid payback provision, okay? And so what this says is, in the event that the individual with the disability were to pass away, any funds that were paid by Medicaid during the time that the ABLE account was open, okay, not the lifetime of the individual, only the time that the ABLE account was open, that the state has the authority to come ask for those particular funds back in the event that that individual passes away. However, this is only after essentially you've paid for any outstanding medical bills, any outstanding disability expenses. If you were in the Medicaid buy-in premium, you can deduct those premiums out of there, and then also paying for that funeral and burial expenses as well. So essentially pay down the account, and then the state has the authority to ask for those particular funds back. So that's important to know, okay? All right, lots of information here. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Texas ABLE. Again, everything is done through our website at texasable.org. We launched our program in May of 2018. So we created the program here in Texas, launched in May of 2018. We administer it through the Comptroller's Office. Everything is done online. So that's important. I will often get people that will say, well, is there a bank I can go to or a field office I can go to? No, it's actually all done through our website. Again, Texas resident for the individual with a disability. We have our customer service team, and everything is done online as far as managing that account. The heading here is built by Texans, made for Texans. And I'll tell you, we rolled out our program a little bit later than some of the other states. And we watched the way that the states, rolled out their programs. And we also used within our agency, we had an advisory committee made up of individuals with disabilities. We had families, parents of children with disabilities, and then we had financial professionals. So we all worked together to create our program. And so we say built by Texans because we built it from within. Our enrollment process, the picture there is our home screen, our our homepage of our website. The big green button there is enroll. That's where you'll go to get started in the program. It doesn't cost anything to start or to enroll in the program. And then when you get ready to make that to make that first contribution into the account, it is a $50 minimum. So relatively low cost to get started. And then anything above that is going to be a $25 minimum for subsequent contributions. Now, during the enrollment process, this is where you will select how you want your funds saved or how you want them invested. Okay, so this is the part usually when I'm in front of a group of people and I go to this slide and I just kind of get that glassy-eyed look because they're going, what in the world does this mean? And so what this is, we have 5 savings options. So when you're going through the enrollment process, it's going to ask you, okay, you're going to put contributions in the account. How do you want them allocated, right? So we have 4 managed allocation options. So those are anything from aggressive to conservative. So they're risk-based, okay? These are based on the stock market. So we'd have 4 of those to choose from. And then that 5th option is going to be a bank savings option. That is going to be a FDIC insured bank savings option. That's important. So you'll go through the process, and when you get to that screen, you'll see there that it will, you can designate by percentage of how you want those contributions to be allocated. You can say, you know what, I want to put 100% of my contributions in aggressive and call it a day, or you can say, I want to put 50% in the bank savings and 50% in the moderate. So you decide how you want them saved. Also, based on that federal law, you can go into our system and change your investment options up to twice a year. So you can go in online and make those modifications. And all of this information, as well as all the underlying funds, everything about the investment options is on our website and in that program disclosure statement. So I'm happy to answer any more questions about that as well. So another thing that our program has, and what we see a lot of our families are using, is we have an online eGift tool. And so what this is a way for, once the account's set up, whoever's managing it, so whether that individual with a disability or that authorized legal rep, can go into the account and actually send out an email to family, to friends, to anyone really, and have them make a secure contribution directly back into that ABLE account, right? And so it's a way for others to give for like holidays or birthdays without actually handing handing money to the individual, because we know when handing money to the individual, that counts as income to that individual. So it's a way for others to give directly into the account. Using the account, money is going to go in online. That's the easiest way to do it. You can certainly write a check and mail it into the program, and they will cash it and put it into the account. But electronic funds transfer is going to be the easiest way. So that's transferring from a personal checking or savings electronically directly into that ABLE account. We have an option for an automatic contribution plan. So we see some families that say, every quarter I want to put in $200, or every month I want to put in $50, however much. You can set it up as your situation, as it works for you and your situation. They did change the law a couple years ago to allow for families that have set up college savings accounts. So 529 college savings accounts, that they can actually use those funds and roll them over into an ABLE program tax-free, and to be used for, disability related expenses. So that's really helped a lot of our families as well. Again, the online e-gifting, and then the special needs trust. We see some of our families have their trusts, their special needs trust, written to where money can actually fund an ABLE account. Money is going to go in online, and it will come out online as well. So you would, when you're ready to use the funds, you would go in, you would make a withdrawal from the ABLE account, transfer it back out of the account, either to a personal savings or checking account, and pay for the expense that way. Or most of our families use our prepaid card. We do have a debit card or a prepaid card with our program. It's the US Bank Focus card. And so what this card is, you go in, you make that withdrawal from the account, you put X number of dollars on that focus card, and then you take that card with you, and it works just like a Visa card wherever you're paying, whether it's online or in person, and you pay for that disability expense directly from that card. Through US Bank, they have a really cool platform and app that you can set up to where you can track those expenses and see exactly how much is left on that card. And then you can also do it online as well. So it doesn't cost anything to have a US Bank card, which is a lot of the other programs do charge their families a monthly fee. So ours are actually free for all our Texas Able account holders. So we see a lot of our families find that's the easiest way. About half of our families open Able accounts, they put money in and they just leave it, right? And they know they're going to use it perhaps in the future. And then we see about the other half put money in and they use it pretty much monthly to pay for expenses related to the disability. And many of them would use the debit card for those types of things. Withdrawal considerations. So again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure they're used for a qualified disability expense. So Texas Able, we are not in the business of approving or denying what they're used for, but you would want to be able to justify keeping that receipt, saying on X number of date, I pulled out this dollar to pay for this medical expense, and just holding on to that documentation. There is a penalty if at the end of the day you were to pull it out and use it for something non-disability related. That would be you'd have to pay taxes on that particular amount that you took out, and then you'd have to pay an additional 10% tax on those earnings. So that's important to know just for that particular withdrawal. Again, making sure that you're keeping the adequate records, whether it's that individual with the disability is doing it or mom and dad or a guardian. Managing the account, it's all done online. We talked about this earlier. This you can go in, change your investment options, set up those recurring contributions, see how much is in the account at any time. Now, there are fees to have a Texas Able account. As it's an investment account, it is a $3.50 fee, a flat fee to have an Able account per month. So it's roughly what, $42 a year is what it comes out to. There's going to be fees if you want to have a paper delivery of statements, but really at the end of the day, you can get all of that done online. With that $3.50 a month, you get 2 withdrawals, electronic withdrawals from the account, and one withdrawal onto that debit card. That's considered one ACH withdrawal. So that's important to know as well. And then once it's on that debit card, you can use it as many times. And then there's no fees involved in that. Give you a couple of just quick slides of a couple of our ambassadors for the program. Actually, Ted Galanos, he's in the Houston area. He was one of our first Able account holders here in Texas. And he's just a super cool guy and is always talking to others about, he lives in a independent living home there in Houston, I think, in Brookdale, I want to say. And so he's just a cool guy and always speaks very highly of Texas Able. The next one is, I mentioned earlier, our advisory committee. So Jane Boss, she is a parent of a child with a disability. Her daughter, Morgan, is 26 and they're from the Georgetown area. And she was very influential and instrumental in helping us open the program and speaks very highly of the program as well. So just a couple examples of the way families are using, or individuals and families are using the program. Q&A, I'm going to circle back to that in just a moment. I want to leave you here with some resources. So these links can be found on our website. I always like to tell everyone about this because, all of the information that I've talked about today it's a lot. It involves a lot of coordination from a state level, from the Social Security Administration, from the IRS. And so these agencies are coordinating to run these Able programs. And so what these are, well, obviously the Texas Able Act, that's our legislation if you're interested in reading that. But the Social Security Administrations, they have what's called the POMS. and that they have a whole section on ABLE, and it's about how their employees and how the Social Security Administration treats ABLE accounts. I want you to go in and see, and you can see what we've talked about and read on how they treat ABLE accounts. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they have one as well as the IRS publication. They have a whole section on ABLE accounts. So you can definitely go in and read that and see how they coordinate together. The Texas State Securities Board, they have a really good website for just kind of investing 101 if someone's maybe new to investing. So we have that link out there as well. And then the last link there is the ABLE National Resource Center. I included this because the ABLE National Resource Center is an organization through the National Disability Institute, and it's a independent clearinghouse for all things ABLE. So they have information on all the programs. Obviously, they have information on Texas, but they have good webinars, good helpful information for you to go out and do your research on the way ABLE accounts work. So I highly encourage you to look at that website. Very, very good information as well. I'll leave you with our customer service team. So I mentioned earlier, we do have a customer service team. They're Monday through Friday. You can call them, you can email them. That's all they do is talk about Texas ABLE. And then you have me, along with my coworker, Vanessa Goodson. We are the outreach team for the program. So we primarily travel. Prior to COVID, we did, and we are just now getting back into traveling again. So we do all the outreach, presentations, webinars. If you need brochures, of course, if you have questions, you can certainly contact us as well. We will help get you the information that you need. But if you have other family, friends, or if you just want to have another webinar or a presentation and go back over anything, reach out to us, and we're happy to set up another event, or maybe a church group or something like that, who may be interested in learning more about ABLE. Again, we do have a monthly webinar schedule.